Hello and good morning, good evening, hello, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to tune in to my channel, and thank you for seeing me. I have uploaded just recently two podcasts that were about Alice in Wonderland. One of them was a part one that was me kind of talking about modern day living, the pitfalls of society, and where it's all kind of going. And the second part of that video series was me unpacking Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. I will be at some point unpacking Lewis Carroll's astrological chart, but I don't have the proper details for him. So I can't go ahead and do that at the moment, but I am looking. So for those that asked, thank you so much. Before I start this one, I would like to say thank you for just being you. Thank you for being you. I think that when you do videos on this level, people find you in all different kind of places and pockets of the world, and they resonate with you in ways that where they can see you and you feel seen and they feel seen. And I think that's ultimately what I'm really kind of doing here. I've always seen myself as a bit of a lighthouse in a way. A lighthouse is something that is like a tower of rock or stone that sits above the shore of the sea, and it shines a light out into the night sky, into the sea, as a guiding light of sorts. That can help boats come into shore, or so boats can see how far away they are from shore and things like that. So a lighthouse in itself is, I'm not sure if you've actually seen the film by Robert Eggers. If you haven't seen that film, The Lighthouse, please go check it out. It's really interesting. I did enjoy a lot of the metaphorical stuff that was going on in that film. But yes, light is illumination, and some people might think that the types of topics that I talk about on my channel are dark, but to me, I just see it as me shining a light on what is already actually there. So, yeah, it's interesting. So before I start going into this deep dive and this kind of reflective chat, I have prepared some notes here. I would like to say that I am shadow banned on Instagram, and I am definitely shadow banned here on YouTube. There are a lot of channels that are non-AI. I am one of them, where you are getting a human talking to you just as if I was sitting in a coffee shop with you. You'd be getting me talking from my heart, from my mind, from the point of where I am in my life, from a point of view of what's going on with me and what's happening in my world, just as if you were sitting with me right now. So there's no games, there's no pretend. This isn't for clickbait. I just do this because I enjoy shining a light out there and trying to connect with people out there that are also able to understand the stuff that I'm talking about. And that's really the source of this topic today. The best thing you can do for me isn't just leave a like or leave a comment below. I will be going back over some videos and jumping in the comments and reading them and going and unpacking them. So if you did leave a comment below, I will have a look at it. The best thing you can do for me in terms of helping an artist, a creator, a wizard, a mystic, and someone with this type of mind gets me into a lot of trouble, is you go in and copy and share, grab a link to one of my videos. One of them being probably a good place to start, isn't too hardcore, would probably be how to spot the signs. So if you've got an Aquarius friend, or if you've got a Gemini friend, if you have a Libra friend or a Leo friend, whatever, everyone is a sign, everyone has a sun sign, grab one of the links off my channel and send it to one person or two people that you know. Because my channel is not monetized. I don't make any money out of this. And that is the best way to share me with others. and it will take 2 seconds of your time, but to me it means a lot because I can't get in the algorithm's good graces here anymore. It doesn't happen. There are channels like Gigi Young's, who I also recommend. There are quite a few different channels out there that I could go into where it blows my mind. Well, it doesn't really blow my mind because the topics that these people and the depth that they're going to is so deep that it would freak a lot of people out. And the algorithm only goes where the majority goes. And the majority is stupid, for a better use of the word. And that was one of the topics that I wanted to talk about today. So please go ahead and share my video, grab the link, do it now. Jump out of this video, go down, scroll down into my videos, grab one of my star sign, how to spot the signs. I've got them all there. They're in-depth, very strong looks at how to spot them, how to see a sign, recognize that person. Send it to a person and say, "Have found this, check out this channel, check out this guy's channel." It means a lot to me. Unfortunately, it is what it is. So I wanted to get on with this topic. Solitude. This is something that I value now more than ever. I value solitude. I value my alone time. I am turning 40 this year. I was born in 1985, and I'm now moving into a phase in my life where I'm very much like a wizard, merman, Venus daddy. That's what I go by now. I've been young and crazy and stupid. I've had the puppy brain. I was like a Labrador in my 20s. I wanted everyone to love me and I wanted to bounce around and I wanted to be loved. And I was very idealistic, very naive, very gullible in my 20s, having fun, spinning. And I'm sure a lot of you were too. Life back then was a lot more simpler before social media happened, before Instagram and Twitter and everything started to happen. We just got on with life. You know, it was a very different reference point in the world to us, to ourselves, to the world. And it hadn't started to become what I would now openly say the world that we're in now is basically pre-apocalyptic. If we can't even say that, then we dare say that we are heading into the end times very, very, very quickly. All right, so globalization, oversaturation of countries, it can go on and on and on. We're heading into financial fuckery. It's beyond. The cost of living, it's just beyond. So I want you to understand that if you are depressed and you feel alone, this is a completely normal response to modern society and living in the modern world now. All right. When I meet people and they don't cry or they don't have breakdowns or they don't have some level of moment, I guess you could say, I'd actually see that as more sick than someone that does at this point, you know. So, and I think that's a pretty fair statement at this point in the world. And if you're going to go into some toxic positivity shit where it's like light and rainbows and, you know, you're focusing on the negative and all that, just shut up. Like, just get off this channel. This is real talk. All right. One of the things that people need to also grasp a lot that I don't think people truly kind of comprehend is something that I've had to grow into understanding as well, is that yes, our soul came here to create in whatever way that is. On some level, the point of existence is expansion. Existence exists. That's the point of existence, right? But also that part of the point of it is co-creation. So yes, you're creating your world in your own way, but you are also working or are connected to an intertwined tapestry of souls that are here as well, that are also co-creating in their reality as well. All right. And so just cutting this really simply is that one soul versus millions of souls there's a difference. All right. I hope that made sense. So it's hard to explain, but we're all connected. I know that sounds strange to people, but I mean, it's pretty fucking obvious. But anyway, so when it comes to solitude and loneliness, one of the things that you will get to a point within yourself where you stop, as I am now, coming into being 40 and facing the next 10 years and what's to come in the world, is you stop wanting the world to see you in a certain way. You stop chasing adulation on a level that you once did. All right. And one of the things that you'll see is you'll be talking to certain people, usually people that really believe in their heart that they're intelligent because they've studied at some school. But when you start really talking to them on a soul level, what you'll realize soon is that the subject that they're talking about and the knowledge that they have on these subjects that they claim to talk and know about really doesn't go much further than just memorization. Okay? And that's one of the things about school. We've talked about this in previous videos, or I have, is that it doesn't teach you how to freely think. It teaches you a system. And a lot of the stuff that you're doing is just reciting and regurgitating information back to be kind of like indoctrinated. And then you are told you're a very good Johnny and Susie because you repeated back the answer to the question that I gave you. And if you say what I said, then you pass. That's school. So when I meet people these days in the modern world as an occultist and a person that studies spiritual science on this level, what we have here for me is when I meet someone that's a straight A student, to me, I don't see that as something to behold. I see that as someone that's just more in depth, further down indoctrination of a system. I don't see them as intelligent. I see them as obedience. You've got a triple A or you've got an A, triple A plus for your obedience to follow a system. All right. So what happens to a certain point of a witch's or mystic's life is we start to reject society. We start to become very reclusive. All right. This is something that's been very much a theme in my life since I was a kid. I went through a very social period in my late teens, early 20s. There was kind of like an explosion of sexuality with myself, an explosion with getting out there in life and really sinking my teeth into it. I've traveled, I've had the oyster, I've jumped out of the boat, I've done skydiving, I swam with a polar bear, I've traveled like to different parts of the world. I've had incredible experiences. If I was to die tomorrow, it wouldn't really, physically, it wouldn't, it's like all my bucket list stuff, I've kind of already done it. And being an old soul, I've been around a long, long, long time. So a lot of stuff that is in this physical incarnation in my life isn't really me learning stuff. It's just me kind of remembering stuff. And as if you're a mystic and you're listening to this, you will resonate with that. You'll often feel that you're not really learning things. There's a reminiscence to it, to life, where it's like, yeah, I've done this before. You know, when you're at school and you're hearing things about World War II, and you're like, yeah, I'll learn about him before. You'll have that type of thing. And I want you to pay attention to that, because what that means is you've incarnated quite a few times. I have mentioned, without getting too woo-woo for people that are newcomers to this channel, is that not all souls incarnate back and not all souls incarnate back straight away. There is a period of time in the spiritual world where, you know, time and space and form doesn't really work that way there as it does here. All right. So I just want to put that out there. But one of the things is that you'll understand is you will stop trying to fit in to the society that you're in. All right. You're going to start to get to a point, and usually, you know, this could happen at any age. I've met young witches and occultists and mystics that really feel this in their heart from very, very young, like I did, where you become very, very quiet, you know, and you stop getting to a point where you're not chasing anything that is performative, because that's what usually is like measured in terms of like success in this world. and you really kind of seek a very quiet life that is really about a lot of inner reflection. And I'm at that place now where going out in public and dealing with people and going to the shops has become almost traumatic on a level, because we're seeing such a regression of souls and how they behave. We're seeing such a regression, like a regression. That's not progression, a regression of how people treat each other. And, even when you go out and you talk to people and you look at them, you just see this kind of emptiness now. It's what I call the fluoride stare. And even how they interact with each other, it's so distant and cold and atomized. And this is all from modern society. It's all from being on your computer. A lot of these young people now that are in their late teens and 20s, their whole life has been so kidnapped and hijacked by being on a computer screen, by being on a laptop or a tablet device or their phone, that they don't actually have a level of skill set that can actually ascertain real, stable, functional relationships. So people's perception of each other is not in a soul place anymore. And you will see that when you start to trace the cords back to the wall, there has been such a degeneration of the soul on a lot of levels, because behavior comes from values and morality. And so when people don't have a level of morality and they're in a state of depravity or atomizing themselves to be consumed by others or to consume others, there's nothing there, there's no glue there that holds people together anymore. So, and that's also part of the agenda of the global agenda that they want. They want people weak, they want people confused. We're going into a cashless society, we're going into facial recognition, we're going into social credit systems. We are literally living in a Black Mirror episode. And some days I'm just so over it, in my heart, in my mind, in my soul. Like, I used to go out to the stars and just look up at the stars and be like, just beam me up, like I'm fucking ready. Because I'm at that point, a lot of time I'm at that point. And I think that's why me coming to myself, becoming an older person and an older, refined, wise, switched on man, is I do not chase fitting in. I don't chase attention. That is not interesting to me. And if you're out there and you're told that you're too quiet, or you're too intense, or you're too much, or you speak and the whole room just goes silent, this isn't because you are wrong, but it's because you hit differently, because you notice that things just don't add up, and you dare to question what others just accept blindly, and people begin to really drift away from you. I want you to know that this is not you. It's nothing that is wrong with you. People usually laugh together at things that just absolutely bore me. Like, I can't even turn the TV on. It's gotten to a point now where I can deconstruct a commercial and look at it from a point of view where it's just gaslighting. Like, everything is consumable, everything is marketable. We've just become social, basically not even social. We're just, like, in that regard, we're just kind of like consumerism. It's just all consumerism. As long as you're a consumer, as long as you're buying something, that's all that matters. And I also see people obsess over trends and obsess over just absolute superficial fucking nonsense. And it's also like them making up these things and making things, problems out of nothing, is also a way of avoiding real problems in the world. You know, you'll often see people that really avoid any level of inner work, like really looking at themselves, because that requires effort. It requires commitment. It requires due diligence to do that. And they don't want to do that. So you'll see people that will find something very minute that is within their control and make that the focus of their life. Same with being this whole like gay thing, or like all of this wokey shit. What it really is distraction on a level. It is very much inverted. I've talked about this before. It's a level of inversion now that's now become quite normalized. But what it is, it's like taking the color blue, and then say your favorite color is blue, which is what people do, not just with like the whole LGBTQ plus shit, all of this, insert made up letters, right? What it is someone taking like their favorite color is blue and then building an identity around that, you know, because it's a preconceived structure of identity that has been laid out for them to follow. Right. And that's why as being me, it's like, you know, I just didn't follow that. I just looked at it and went, this is very dangerous. It's very pernicious. Gay culture, all of this is very, very, very dangerous to the soul. It mutilates the soul. It destroys the body. This is actually really Luciferic in a lot of ways. It's a mockery of the natural world in a lot of ways, in the behavior of the selfishness of it. But then if you say something on that level of depth, like I just said then, A, it will probably go right over the top of someone's head, or B, they will be like looking at you going, what's wrong with you? You know, you're not blending in. You're supposed to fit in. You're supposed to look like everyone and do as you are told. And what we really have here is someone that has a level of intelligence that is very real. And so one of the things that you'll learn about intelligence is that it isolates you, right? Intelligence isolates you. And what it is that over the years, I have made being isolated my strength. Yes, I'm still starving on many aspects. Yes, I'm still a human that I need interaction with other humans. All right. But I've learned that I don't accept scraps. I don't accept low quality depth. I don't accept, like, lions don't eat. Like, you've got to, I think the meme was lions don't, in order to be a lion, you have to stop accepting rats. We don't dine on rats. We dine on prey. We dine on real food. So like a dog in the street, are you going to live on scraps, or do you want a T-bone steak? So what we accept from others and how they treat us, and what we put up with other people in their level of self-awareness or lack of self-awareness, is on us. So when you level up, what I've done is I've come to a place where I'm okay with that level of solitude. I often go for massive walks on my own, just with my dog. And I actually have come to a place of great peace with this. I've come to a place of protecting my peace above everything else, protecting almost like a shield of sorts, and slightly a little bit disassociated with the world, just to get through it. Even though I'm not disassociated with the world, I know exactly what's going on. It's just me coming to a place of understanding that when you start to see a level of truth that is in the world, you become a real threat to people. All right. It's when you can think clearly and you can speak very concisely and articulate your sentences with truth and facts, you will start to become very, very alienated, because people don't want the truth. They want comfort. All right. And intelligent people threaten that level of comfort. All right. So this is a beautiful, painful, and brutal truth. All right. And this isn't about being superior. Say, for example, this is like when society uncovers a person or a person uncovers society in a very intellectual way, this is like the highest state of a man's mind. And a lot of philosophers all knew that. And that's why a lot of them were all single. A lot of them were on their own. Okay? And it's not vain, it's not arrogance. It's just that you're going to be operating on a level that other people can't comprehend. So when you are around people and they just say things like they're talking, there's lots of words, but they don't mean anything. There's no meaning behind the words, all right? And so small talk just feels like noise. And it's like you're always watching life, but you're living in a level of observation, all right? And this is one of the first things that you'll see is that in the academic world as well, it just rewards conformity and performance and basically memorization on a lot of levels. All right. So it's kind of when you get older, you start to reject this flow. And a really good analogy, which I love, and I have this stuck on my wall in my old place, was a photograph of all of these fish swimming in one direction. And then you've got one little fish swimming in an opposite direction from all of this massive group of school of fish. And all of those fish are kind of looking back going, where are you going? And he's looking at them going, where are you going? So blind following is what really is what people want. So being aware and being fully awake to the hypocrisy and the fuckery of this world is very, very painful. And I mentioned that in a previous video, that it's like when you wake up, it's like jumping out of a boat and you've got to find another boat to get to. That's why I do these fucking videos, right? Because I'm reaching out to people out there that could understand what I'm talking about. So when you are thinking on your own and you're thinking outside and you're questioning authority and you're questioning these things that are completely illogical, that makes people very, very uncomfortable. And so they'll often pull away, all right? Or they'll try and shame you as well. I get that a lot. People try and shame you. If they can't control you, they will try and control generally how others see you to regain control of you. Because humans are a social species. We need each other. Like if you put a deer out into the bush, into the forest on its own, the deer would die because we need connection. All right? It's just part of it's inbuilt into us. So when you say something that questions someone else's what they're saying or how they're thinking, what you're really doing is their perceived ego will see, or their ego will see you as a threat to their identity. And when you do that, that really creates a lot of turmoil, and their ego has to try and deconstruct you so that it can regain control to feel safe again, because you're challenging who they think they are. All right. A lot of geniuses know that. They all knew that. There's like genius theory, like we know that. Okay. So it's living in a world of illusions where people just accept comfort for survival, basically, for comfortable survival. But when you become quite complex, that can't be received, because people can only receive you as deeply as they've received themselves. All right. So it's really an unspoken tragedy. And I think it's a tragedy of anyone that wants more than just superficial conversations and wants to go higher in consciousness. A lot of the time you have to kind of blend in when you're with people and really dumb it down and kind of not too silent, but not too over talkative. You have to kind of fit into a social structure of that group. I've had workplaces where I've worked at where the I guess the culture of the business was just all bitching and backstabbing and bullying, and when I didn't go to their Christmas parties, or when I didn't, hang out in the gossip room chatting about Karen in accounting, they would get mad because I wasn't conforming to the normity of their own dysfunction within the group. So then you become the problem, because you're not bending the knee and becoming a part of their inner behavior, if that makes sense. So you get that a lot as well. Okay. And all of this stuff that I'm talking about, this is predicted stuff that has been around since humans have been around. This isn't new, okay? This isn't our first time at the rodeo looking at this or me talking about this. Like, tons of people out there are now seeing this, and they're starting to understand that the very nature of intelligence is an act of rebellion in a way, because if you have a level of curiosity for truth, then you're going to challenge other people's comfortability. And this will not be admired. It will be treated as an absolute threat. Okay, and that's one of the things that you'll see straight away is you'll be silenced, you'll be told to shut up, and you'll be told that you're not a team player, and they'll try and just, control you. And that's why trying to escape the matrix on any level in life as you get older is very, very difficult, because it's all based on algorithms that basically reward repetition and emotional manipulation. No depth, no intelligence, just consumerism. And I mean, even in astrology, you'll even see astrologers doing gossip astrology. You'll see everything's reduced to materiality, which I've talked about that before. So you won't get depth, you'll just get materiality and blind obedience, basically, of whatever's trending. Like people filming themselves eating food, people restocking their shelves for products, people showing you the products that they're going to buy or showing you the products that they've bought. It just goes on and on and on. But a lot of this stuff is just ego. It's all just ego. And I believe in mimic theory. If you haven't heard of this as well, it's where humans copy each other. So when you go on social media and you see someone has something or they look a certain way, you are programmed to mimic what they're doing. You're programmed to go get that handbag or go get that makeup or to have lip injections so your lips look like someone else's lips, to look like someone that has higher social capital. So all of this stuff is all mimicking. And humans do that in their nature anyway, okay? We know that copying is part of human survival and learning. So same with the monkey experiment, where they put a group of monkeys on one island and they all kind of groomed each other with their fleas and helped get food and stuff and copied each other and learnt skills together to survive and get food ultimately. Look out for predators in the trees. And then there was a monkey on their own on the island on their own, and the monkey was dead within a couple of weeks. So it's inbuilt into us, for someone to, in a group scenario, because humans are tribal species, is that it's to have any level of rejection or any level of social exile is seen as a threat to your survival. So you kind of have to fit in. That's why when I look at a lot of people that are very indoctrinated into things that are just absolutely not because we have a real non-consensus on reality as well. And that's also trickled down from programming. But when I meet someone that is in such a state of non-consensus of reality, what that tells us or tells me is that they have chosen to fit in for their own survival and to be perceived as being likable in a group than actually state something that is real. All right, so you'll see that quite often. So it's really quite weak. It's very cowardly when you can't even state something that is biologically obvious and true. So this is where we have a lot of Oh my goodness, it's a word that I've had a mind blank. Cognitive dissonance. So it's where we take something and we distort it with a group of people, or we distort our perception of it for it to be something that it's actually not. But if enough people agree that it is something that we're all saying that it is, therefore we've convinced ourselves that it is, even though it's not. And so when humans play around with reality like that and the law of identity, which is one of the Hermetic principles, we have a lot. This is going to create a lot of problems. Okay, fucking around with Mother Nature is a really dangerous thing to do. But we see that, and it's all under the guise of like ego flattering, So, and that's really where a lot of this all comes from. So intelligence is really not understood. It's really it's feared in a lot of ways. So you'll see that a lot in people, and just, they can't go there and have a calm, logical, stable, respectful conversation. They'll just jump straight into name calling because it's the only way that they can attack, because they can't back up a challenged perceived idea with logic or thought or facts. They just can't do it. So you'll see that a lot. And this creates a lot of suffering basically in the world. It's a perpetual cycle of suffering. And it doesn't get any better. All right. So when you start to understand life, and as I am now and I'm getting older, my worldview is changing, and a lot of the blinders kind of come off. You go through coming into the human form and having the human light experience, you experience a whole, you should be experiencing a whole complexity of emotions, and a lot of rebirths should be taking place in your life. So we go through grief, we experience love, we experience jealousy, we experience lust, we experience an unequated love, we experience what it's like to love someone truly, deeply, really. We experience rejection. Like everything, all of these experiences shape or should be shaping the consciousness of a human, of a person. Okay, and we also move through planetary correlations throughout our life as well. It's all connected. No, I know that sounds strange to people, but believe me, it's there. So just avoiding this and being ignorant to all of this and playing little happy game world in your head isn't going to change the reality of, or the morality of life. It's there, all right? So I hope that made sense. So as I'm coming back to my point here, is that loneliness and solitude has become a friend of mine. And since lockdown, and since we had a massive shift in the world back at the end of 2019, and we went through COVID, and I did 3.5 years or 2.5 years in lockdown. One of the things that I struggled with it terribly in the start, where I'd be like, sitting in the bath with an iPad going, I'll just watch a movie, and and then after a couple of weeks, it's like, that doesn't really work long term. But what it does, it brings you to a place of understanding that I couldn't use distractions outside of myself. I had to look at myself. That's why a lot of relationships ended around that time, because anyone who was using work as a crutch to avoid having real relationships with people, it didn't work. Anyone who was using anything as a cover or a front to hide themselves from their partner, that's why their relationships ultimately ended, because it was revealed. It was kind of forced and flushed out. It's very interesting that actually around that time when a lot of breakups were happening, and I remember just kind of going, well, yeah, because you can't hide something, and you can't, hiding something as well within yourself is very, very toxic. Keeping a secret inside yourself is very, very dangerous to the soul and also to the body, to different aspects of yourself as well. So yeah, so it's kind of like being very introspective and analyzing and reflecting and thinking is just part of my nature. It's a reflective nobility that I have as a Sagittarius and a triple Sag in myself astrologically, where you get to a point where there just really isn't anything to prove. And people come to me and say, like, how do I, I told my friend, I told my mum I'm a witch, or I told my, ex person this thing, and they look at me weird and they shut down. And what my response to that is that you have to get to a point within yourself where you're so comfortable with who you are that you don't have a level of fear and you're not governed by approval of other people. All right. So your own authenticity has to matter more than the opinion of a person that is not you. That's why people that don't really believe what they are need the most affirmation of other people. All right. If you truly are a witch, you're a witch. You wake up in the morning and it's a part of your life. It's just like taking a piss. It's a part of you. It's just something you get on with it. The ones that need everyone to know, they are trying to reaffirm something to themselves. But when they wake up in the morning, they know who they really are. They know that it's not real. They're just pretending. So the ones that need the most affirmation and to be affirmed that they are of something from the outside world shows the level of depth that they have within themselves towards that aspect of themselves. All right. So I've seen that a lot and I think that it's, you see that in the world with people. You can see that everywhere. People are all projecting a version that they want to be seen as in their best light. But we know that that isn't real. And life is messy. It's complicated. It's not this perfect Instagram post. Okay, so we've got a real disillusionment with like reality on that level as well. All right. So yeah, it's a tricky one. But I think that just coming to a place of peace within yourself where you just are watching the world and you're living your own life and you don't have this kind of darker envy to be something more than you are. You've unplugged from the matrix. You know that it's a system that's designed to just chew you up and spit you out. And the government doesn't give a fuck about you. They're trying to control you and manipulate you. But what is the government but other humans? When we say the word they, who are you referring to? Are you referring to the puppet masters that, the body of the bird that holds both wings of left and right in politicians world? What are you referring to? So we've got to think about when we say they, who are you? Are you talking about the billionaire psychopaths that run the world that are all the cultists and shit? What are you thinking? Like when you start tracing the cords back to the wall, what are you actually saying? Where is this coming from? Yeah. Okay. So when you start to question things, you're going to affect people because it's going to make them question their own inadequacy. People will feel outshined. People will feel small. Part of this human world is polarity. When you stand beside someone that is tall, you will experience what it feels like to be short. When you stand around someone that's really, really has an abundance of wealth, you'll experience the gap of money gap that you have that they have. So you experience more like what it's like to be poor. It's all based on contrast. And contrast is part of life. We have to have that. We can't take that away. All right. Otherwise, you'd be going into like socialism, all right, which is also just another form of control. So I hope this is all making sense. All right. And Socrates was perhaps one of the most famous philosophers, tongue-tied, one of the most famous philosophers of all time. And he was executed for corrupting the youth. They didn't want him as a person out there sharing this like level of knowledge. They want people that speak up, they get silenced. All right. You could get arrested for having different thoughts that offended the church or offended certain people. So it's like that's where we're at now. But I just want you to know, like in life, it wasn't when you were rejected, a lot of it wasn't for your flaws, it was for your clarity. And don't ever mistake someone else trying to gaslight you and telling you there's something wrong with you when all you've done is just ask a simple question that questioned where all of this was coming from. They don't like that. Okay, people like the sugar-coated versions of things. They don't want the cruel, honest truth of things. But the truth of it is where pain sits, is where liberation sits as well. All right. So, and that's a big part of like when you start to move away from crowds, right? And you start to really just sit in silence. And I do it all the time. I need to be alone. I've become very reclusive, and I won't put up with any level of like someone not having self-awareness. So I really embrace my solitude because I need lots of space and lots of air to think. And I think, solitude ultimately does bring you a freedom, in a lot of ways, because it will make you come to a place of really facing yourself. You can't use TV and your phone and your friends and all these crowd distractions to get adulation, because that's performance. And when you are in your own self, you're not needing to perform because you are your own self, So the ones that can move away from a crowd, that's where the power will always be. Okay. And you need to understand as well, and I'm sharing this with you, is that like the soul's journey, like through evolution, also isn't very linear. Like we go through phases of confusion, and then we get clarity, and then we go through phases like of being broken down, and then we rebuild ourselves. We do get loneliness, we do, and it hurts. But that's also part of knowing your value and knowing that, do you really want to have a superficial friendship or a superficial connection that really isn't on a deeper level where you feel really seen? You want to feel validated by being understood, but you need someone that can understand you to do that. And if they can't do that, then they can't do it. And trying to get someone to change their mind is pointless. All right. So it's interesting, but I hope all of this is making sense. And I think that as I get older and age, solitude has become such a power thing for me, where it's like just trying to create something like a bubble within myself where I can do things that I actually really enjoy doing. And also just living. Life has the ebbs and flows of itself within itself that aren't over like hyper dramatized. And it's a very, life in itself is a very kind of like beautiful, stable thing that isn't like in the movies or TV, if that makes sense. Sometimes I just come to realizations on things when I'm just in a moment and I'm painting or I'm drawing or I'm working on walking around, or I have a moment where something just clicks in my head, and it's not a staged moment. It's just a quiet realization about someone or a quiet realization of the world that I'm in. And so trying to find my peace through that is where I'm headed. And turning 40 this year is a big one. I'm leaving my 30s behind to come into my 40s, a new chapter in my life where, things, change again. And being open to change is really important as well. Understanding human nature is very uncomfortable. Okay. And so, you might have kids or people that that say, people tell them you think too much, but it's not. It's just who you are. And people don't like that. They want you to be stupid. They want you to fit in. And it's just crazy. Silent observation becomes your best friend because you're not in a state of fear of rejection of others, and you're capable of just seeing the world as it is. It's black and white, and it's evil, and it's good, and it's beautiful. It's all of these things that you'll just see, and you'll come to a place within yourself where it's just acceptance, and that's the best place to be. I think. And no matter what happens in the next few years, when things start to really ramp up and it's like the frog in the pot, which I'll be doing a video on. I'm going to do a couple of videos like this, just very reflective, very real and very honest, very grounded chats with you, where I'm going to look at that as well. And knowing when it's time, you know, and I'll be ready to tell everyone as soon as I know when the time is, when it's time, I'll be like, okay, it's time. For those who know what that means, you know, but yeah, it's like we're heading into that stage now where it's like, you know, basically the collapse of the Western world. And we can see that happening on so many levels. I did mention at the start of this video that a very healthy, a very normal reaction or a very normal state of living is depression now, basically. And that's sad, but that's just unfortunately where the world is now. So I hope this helps. Lots and lots of love to you. You know, only a weak mind can be bored. You know, it's when someone tells me they're bored, it's like it's very entitled to say that, because it's someone that is demanding a performativeness of someone else or their external world to entertain them, because they themselves can't do it within themselves first. You know, so I hope that makes sense. Yeah, it's actually quite pathetic. All right, so I will leave it here. Lots and lots of love to you. Please share my channel with anyone that would be able to grasp these types of chats and would like to leave a comment below. Jump in the comments and leave that comment below. I would like to hear it and bring something to me that I haven't seen. Tell me something that I don't know. Share something about yourself. I'll jump in the comments here and I'm going to get in there as well. But yeah, I really appreciate your time and thank you for tuning into my channel, and thank you for seeing me and understanding me and just holding space for these types of really deep chats. Lots and lots of love, and there is nothing wrong with you. You are the way that you are, okay? You're just living in a sick world with NPCs. It's not your fault. It's not, okay? All right, lots and lots of love. Bye, bye, bye.